G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by the Astropub. Hey, no, mate.
Feel good. I'm not nearly as tired as you are.
No, I'm feeling it today. I did not have a good night. I woke up. I woke up.
I will say,
through.
For those of you who are watching this, he hit the record button this time.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Hey, well, yeah. Well, you can see it. That's the ironically weird part. Like, I might be the one that didn't hit it, but it was. I'm surprised you guys didn't detect it earlier because you're usually pretty on point with that stuff. But anyway.
I have been head buried in my complete history of Drake series. It's almost done. It's releasing on Thursday, so it's like I'm just like.
Is that alongside Drake Day, or have I got my time? Yeah. Okay, that's good timing.
Yeah, it's going to release on Drake Day. I did the same thing on at Invictus. I released the complete history of Anvil Aerospace.
Makes sense.
On Anvil Day, so or just before Anvil Day, so yeah.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's kick it over. If you wanted to pioneer, first wave is gone. Yeah, you're not surprised. I was listening to someone that's listening to us on the Discord record right now, and he got it into the cart, so he's probably going to get in the second wave. But I'll let you say what you were going to say. Got 2 more waves to go, yeah, basically.
2 more waves, yeah. There's one at 4 p.m. Eastern and one at midnight tomorrow Eastern. So that's for me in the US. For me in Texas, that's 11 p.m. tonight. For those of you in the UK, that would be 5 a.m.
The other way you can look at it is once the sale starts, it's just 2 8 hours after that. So 8 hours and then 8 hours again. That's how I remember it, because then you can do it more globalistically. So yeah, I don't know. I would have thought by now you guys would have learned a bit of that covering this globally, but you're still very USA UK. But that's totally fine. You guys do you. But it's definitely taught me a lot about time zones, and going to the UK was really. It made it even weirder for me for some reason. Like when people from home would call up and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's 4 p.m." and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's like." It's like 8 a.m. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, it felt being on the other side of it was even weirder. Yeah.
All right. I will say that the easiest thing is if you can say what the time is in Eastern, and that's literally what CIG does, then you can pretty much figure out anywhere in the world from Eastern Seaboard. You know, that or GMT. That's why I usually use Eastern, because it's just like.
Yeah, I've gone to GMT. Yeah, I've gone GMT, so either or, yeah. All right, kicking it off today with the smaller manufacturers, we've got Argo. I think straight out of the gate, we've got the CCU, so I'll kick this off out of the way because it's the only one for today. If you've been noticing they're being generally shitter this year, they have. And they're not as, I don't know, they're just not as good, and maybe that's better for us if you think about it, because then when it comes to all the ones at the end, we haven't missed any. Maybe that's deliberately the case. You were saying the raft is pretty good because of the cargo stuff this year, though. So
the way that the cargo works right now, the raft is actually a meta ship for cargo hauling, because it can carry a lot more cargo than you realize. Because it's supposed to carry 3 32 SCU crates, but because there's nothing that runs in 32 SCU crates, or very rarely. They have the loading zone, the actual cargo zone is can fit even smaller, so it looks really weird as they're kind of stacked in there, but you can fit like the full range of 32, because it's about one high, like a 30, the actual 32 crate high, so you can fit in it like legitimately. What is that? I'm trying to think of the top of my head how many that is. It's like 96 SCU of cargo. You can fit all 96 SCU of cargo efficiently in the raft, which makes it really, really good for transportation. If you because that's typically around with the larger sort of
like a Taurus. Yeah, it's close to a Taurus. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. I look, people can argue with me with this back and forth. I also think there's things up for a price increase when they finally turn it into the Sky Crane. It is very evidently designed to do that because of where the back console's placed and all the extra geometry. And also, we're going to need something like that for the whole series to unload at space stations. It just makes a lot of sense. And Argo are that unloading. I don't know what else to say that. What would you say that in law? You know, with the MPUVs,
infrastructure. I call them the infrastructure ships. Because like the only ship that is Argo that isn't infrastructure based is the Mole.
Yep.
Everything
Agreed.
else is based around how can we support space stations and dockyards, because
Yeah.
you know the MPUV loads whole seas and orbit. The raft does transportations from like rural areas to you know be able to load and offload pretty easily without having to deal with like local infrastructure.
Yeah.
The SRV moves ships for repair. Pretty much every ship in the series of Argo is designed to support the function of space stations or ground locations.
Yeah,
So
I'd agree with all that. Well, and that's all law based, and that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so
Mhm.
this thing, you can kind of see it's going to eventually extend out and be like a sky crane. But again, it probably functionally isn't going to get that for a long time. But I think that'll probably come with a slight increase in price, but we'll have to wait and see. The Atlas, I was really surprised we got this year, to be honest with you.
I mean, I was pleasantly surprised that we got this. It's amazing.
And then where they dropped it with such lackluster fanfare, I found that really bizarre.
Lackluster. They made like $2 million on it.
But what I mean is they just kind of just dropped it in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't it Invictus. It wasn't it. Yeah. Like I would have thought they would have released it at IAE, you know, like and really doubled down. But like it just shows you how popular. Like I picked one up. Everyone I know picked one up, right? Because it's a Titan suit. We've all wanted this for so long. And again, as you said, $2 million at $40 a pop. It's that whole thing we've been telling them for years, Paul. Smashing them over the head with it. It's volume, baby. Come on.
Yeah.
Pricing.
More people are gonna pull out their wallet to pay for a $20 item than they are going to pay for a $200 item. And the more you go along, the higher the prices get, the more people are going to be turned away from that and moving towards lower priced items. And so this was a neat little thing. People bought it off of aesthetics. Some people bought it over meta because I don't know, it's a dumb reason. I have too, because I like power suits and mechs. That's just my thing. That's the thing I like in science fiction.
It's Paul's power fantasy.
Yes. I like it, so why not get them? And I will buy 2 Titan suits if they ever sell those, which I think they will. But
I think they're going to sell more than 2. I think you're going to probably have a whole. I'm seeing a whole pack that you can buy, Paul. Like
one in every color. Yes.
Yeah. Well, like he did for the action series. You know, he was doing the GI Joe ripoffs. That ad, but action Titan suits. But
yeah. What I'll say as well is with the Atlas, it's one of those you can buy it in game now.
Yep.
So don't bother. It's fine to get in game. It's a good support vehicle. Buying it with cash might give you a little bit in terms of advantage, but the one thing I will say, the big thing about the ATLS and its functionality is it's proving that CIG is do you remember how we talked about in the past that the CIG is probably holding off ships for dropping them later? The ATLS was dropped because 3.2.4.2 was released. So it was dropped because a patch was released. This was something they were holding on to, waiting for cargo to be done. And so when they got the cargo elevators in, they're like, slip this in with the cargo elevators. But it was clear that it had been around for a while. And just like the Guardian and which is coming out in 4.0, I think we're gonna have that same sort of thing. Every sub patch is gonna now have a new ship.
I'm trying to point, but it's not working because my finger's getting cut off. But do we let him go for letting one letter out of Atlas go and now calling a second thing Atlas, or do we on the flame on that too?
It's the ATLS, just like the MPUV or the RAFT or it fits within there. I'll give them a pass for naming conventions because it makes sense in terms of the theme of like Atlas holding up the world, but it's not fully Atlas. It's ATLS. You know, it's fine. Yeah. So
I do think there needs to be a law reckoning just before the game comes out, and they do rename a whole bunch of things for.
And they can do it in lore too. They can just say a bunch of companies sued each other over copyright infringement and
because there's a lot of naming confusion. You know, Liberator's one, Atlas is not so bad, but I think it's how do I put this? An absolute blasphemous thing that the Titan suits are not named after Titans. I just think that is just like it's such a missed opportunity. where they could go back and essentially use actual Titans names for all the suits. Again, a lot of those Titan names have been given to other ships, so
yeah,
I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, CSV-SM, what is this word salad, and why did they do this? Like, it's just like, why wouldn't you just call it the SM? Or I don't know, like CVSM and then FM and then it's called Argo. So it's just this word, like words. It's the worst named thing they've ever come up with. I think it's just word salad.
It's the truck. It's the Argo truck is what it is.
And that's what I've been
call it.
Yeah. I've just been calling it the dump truck or the utility truck, and that's all you're ever going to get out of me. I'm not going to call it word salad.
It's one of those classic things like the Starlancer when it's like they have this chassis. What can they do with this chassis? Because this was the mobile base builder, and then they were like, what if we took the mobile base building off, and now we had what can we do with that? Oh, we could turn it into a truck. There we go. It's a truck.
People have been asking for this little truck thing for years. I just want a dump truck or a utility truck. We heard that again and again and again. So
well, I mean, it's still not what I think what they'll do is they'll extend it out and make it a longer version to hold one single 32 SCU, because I think it only holds like 8 SCU.
Yeah,
something like that, or not even
4.
Like, it's small. Four.
Yeah, well, again, ironically, it's the same as an Aurora and a Mustang. Those smaller starships, and price the same. What do you know? But again, you can see it is in a weird way. It uses a lot of the same stuff as the Mule. It's got the same entry and exit animations, and really the wheels are just. It's almost the same, bigger. But just the wheels make it wider. So again, that does warrant the extra 2 SCU that didn't carry over the Mule, but you've got to now question the Mule's existence because of this thing. It just like doubles everything.
I still think the Mule gets rid of the forks, and they instead of doing a forks, they're going to go with a tractor beam. I think if they get rid of the forks and get a head-mounted tractor beam to allow it to load and unload from the Mule, it'll basically be like a faster ATLS. I think that
I keep coming back to the different tech levels. I think the Mule is on a lower tech level than this. So depending on where you are in the world and what resources you have and stuff like that, only certain things will be available to you. So again, just as we're going forward and people are starting to realize things, that's just gonna keep continuing. All these things that you and I and our grid and all the other Inforunners and other content creators, period. When you go through all those documents, it's all out there. It's just that it's little nuggets all hidden. And that 1.0 panel did bring a lot of stuff in, but there's still a lot of stuff that. How do you talk about the whole game in half a day? It just shows you how big the game is. They can't. You know how I walk up to people and they say, "What is Star Citizen?" And I can't say it. I can't even say it in a paragraph.
Yeah.
And let alone try and the actual company can't tell you everything in half a day. That just tells you everything right there. The game's too big. So right.
Yeah.
The mole, the one we were talking about before.
It's hard to justify. CIG kind of waffles back and forth with the mole. Sometimes it is better than the Pioneer or the Prospector. Sometimes it's worse. It's the problem with the mole is that it currently is super easy to cheese. So people can one person can operate a mole, which is not supposed to happen. So when engineering comes in, this is going to get hit with a Nerf bat real hard. I imagine that you won't be able to run all of the lasers at the same time.
I don't think it's that. I think it's like when atmosphere comes in, because you're going to have to kind of hover, and if you can't maintain that flight, which is going to be a lot harder to do once atmosphere's in, you're definitely going to need at least 2 people minimum in this thing. But again, I think again, as I said, as we go along, more and more rude awakenings, so to speak. So yeah, it's an everyday available ship now too. So there's no real reason to buy it at this sale. Again, you're in a free fly, go try it out for yourself. Again, I think ships that have multiple people like this are going to become more and more popular. Yeah, it's got its place, but again, that's the thing. This is going to be the thing with a lot of ships. They're all going to become a bit because there's something else around them. You know, they're all a little
Mhm.
bit trod on. And let's be honest, the mining lineup is the most complete lineup we have, and that's probably why this one feels a bit because it's fairly trod on. It's got other
It
things
feels
around it.
it feels like the 300 series did a while ago, where like it was released when
Yeah,
it was the only thing in its class, and as more things come out in its class, it becomes like, why do you exist? Not
yeah.
that the mold's bad, and I'm sure they'll
Mm,
find some way of improving it over time. And I think it still is pretty good if
yeah,
mining is functioning right now.
yeah.
But there's some decisions which are kind of confusing, like why are the people hanging out outside, no,
Mm.
with no vacuum, like no life support
Well, you
sort of
got to have suits
situation.
just so they can be on the outside. It's kind of weird. Like, why would you
Yeah,
build a ship like that just so you have to have suits? You wouldn't do that. And again, the
no.
front one's enclosed. Why wouldn't you make it so the two side ones are enclosed? It's just like,
It rule
why?
of cool. It's
Yeah,
rule of cool, but I
yeah,
think that's when we're gonna start to see the rule of cool start clashing with the actual gameplay mechanics,
yeah,
and where people go, "Hey, cool is one thing, but a game that is fun is not the same as a game that is cool."
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like they can be very different,
yeah.
and
And I,
often are.
and there are other features to come online for this too, like the sorting feature and stuff like that, that will separate it from the prospector and also probably lower it underneath the raster and stuff like that. So it's not a bit samey like the prospector in a way at the moment, but they, as things go along, it's still going to start to differentiate. And then when that happens, chips won't feel as trod on because they will separate out more as time goes by. So yeah. All right. God, we sound like we're a Debbie Downer today on some of these, but it's just the way this lineup rolls at the moment.
Yeah,
It'll be different when they get some of their bigger ships, but yeah. We can chuck a lot of these MPUVs together. It is the
yeah.
king, but like Argot always says now, I don't understand why all three of these exist because quite honestly, this
Why
thing's
would you get
up.
the cargo and the personnel when you can just get the tractor and then swap the personnel and the cargo in later?
Yeah,
It's a
well,
multi
yeah,
it's a multi-tool. It needs to be like, why would you
yeah, yeah. It
why
is
would
clear.
you
It's clearly a modular ship, so to speak, like a module, but
uh,
man, like again, as modularity comes in, this will probably be one of the ones up there. You've got to assume it's going to be up there pretty quick because this thing's not hard to do. It's just a box
no.
essentially that applies to the bottom. So much like the M50, where it's just an engine swap, they really should have. I know they did the Retaliator because they're doing the Retaliator rework, but things like this and the M50 had to have been up there. Well, the M50 was in consideration, wasn't it, for a really long time?
Mhm.
So, again, these are the ones that I would have done first to make it, keep it simple,
It's
stupid.
easy. It's
Yeah,
simple. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that the it's super easy with the MPUV because there's only going to be so many
Mm,
versions
mm,
of like so many modules you can slop in. So unlike the nightmare scenario of like 250 modules that
yeah,
the Caterpillar is, this is like 5.
yeah,
Like at most it'll have 5 or 6. And
yeah.
it's like, oh, it's just 5 or 6 ships that you can just swap in and out according to the games. Like, and it's a tiny
Mm,
ship. So it's not going to have a huge imprint in terms of the file size. So it's like,
mm.
why not use this? It's a great testing bed for that. But
think I could.
yeah,
I think I could safely say this. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but this is probably no. It is the best snub in the game. Would you?
yes.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
I'd argue that this is the best sub in game for cargo haulers,
Yeah, yeah.
or
Okay, true,
industry
true,
players, because the Pisces medical is
true.
probably the best sub in the game because of its abilities over the Pisces.
Oh, see, is it a still? No, technically it's a snub, but that's the ship that crosses the line because it's a
Yeah,
snub and it's a
a
small.
starter
So
fighter.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I'd
yeah,
argue it's a starter ship, not a snub.
yeah,
But people, because it is sold as a snub
yeah. And
for the Carrack.
it can be spawned at landing zones, which also covers it as a snub. And there's only a couple of ships that can do. I think the 100i can do that as well, or the
Yeah.
100 series. So
Well,
there's a few.
technically the Razor can too, and it's
Yeah,
like the Razor is not a snub. It has never been a snub,
I think
so
it's
it's
got
just
something to
small.
do with the size. Well, what's
Yeah.
to say down the line we can't get a Mirai ship that's based somehow around espionage
Uh-huh.
and is it the black one? I always damn forget the names with those acronyms, but the scout ship, it might have its place. But again, we'll see. I think snubs have got a really interesting future if they're done correctly, especially now jump points are online. That like them not being able to jump, that negative gameplay is going to add tension. I'm interested to see where that's going to go, especially with ships like the TAC. Like I am really interested to see Because in a weird way, it's a little bit like the Merlin and the Archimedes, right? If you think about the constellation to the Star Lancer, they are similar, but then all of a sudden you've got the ability to repair one. But like I said, with attack, if they could just have extra Furies attached to the outside, that makes that hangar so much more valuable. But how do you get extra Furies to the tack? You can't, because they have no warp drive, so they've got to go with it.
Yeah.
So you see what I mean? Well, maybe you can just stuff them in the cargo bay. I don't know. I never even thought of that. But yeah, we kind of talked about this one before. Is there anything else you want to add on that, or we could just skip this one at 125?
Nope.
Yeah. All right, we'll skip that one because we did it already. SRV. I think this is another one of those ships that is gonna really be beneficial, just not right now because we don't have repair yet. Believe it or not, I think this is the infancy of repair, being able to drag people to a repair facility. But at the moment, who's going to go all the way back to get a SRV when the person can just get themselves
respawn
back?
It.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that it's not going to take off until that happens, until things cost more to do, and then this will start to shine. Anything else you want to add to that one, or?
No, I mean, I do think that it will be more valuable as the cost of repair goes up. And I do think that's going to be something they're doing with 4.0 and beyond. The prices in 4.0, y'all aren't ready. Like, none of you are ready. It is a whole overhaul. Like, things are going to be a hell of a lot more expensive in 4.0 beyond. So they're doing everything they can to force you to use an SRV, because it'll be cheaper to take a disabled ship and bring it back to a place to get it fixed than it is to just backspace and get yourself a new one.
And everything's moved. It's not just go to Cousin Crow's and they're all there. Like, give an example. I went to Cousin Crow's and they were all civilian drives. They weren't military drives anymore. So everything's moved. Everything's got new locations. The whole game has changed. Literally, it's you know, people talk about wipes. That's got nothing compared to what's about to happen. So yeah. Mm. All right, that's Argo done. That was a quick lap. It feels quick. We're going to do 4 laps today.
4 laps, yeah. Well, luckily, each of them are easier to do because like there's less and less. I think Argo is the biggest one of those. So
yeah, yeah. Oh man, I just keep thinking of being on the captain's table and the landing gear, and yet there's landing gear right in the screenshot. Anyway, but yeah, the Pioneer 850. I just don't understand how this thing's going to jump to 975 after this sale. So, yeah, it's a big ship and it's just about to get bigger. I think the thing I'll say about this, the one thing I really learned from Ben Curtis and John Crew, God, that's going to stick, is that not everyone in the org needs this. Like it's kind of like 1 or 2 per org max, and you got to remember you're feeding it resources. It's absolutely chewing them up. And the way I'd say it is, it's a smaller version of the space station thing. And you saw that at CitizenCon, like all the cargo they were bringing, and that thing just grew hardly at all. But this is building the city, right? And this is building ships and stuff like that. So this is a negative take, so to speak. It's taking all your resources and you've got to maintain it to have a positive outcome. And its sheer size this is kind of one for an entire org. You don't need multiples. And I know orgs that have heaps of these. I think people are for this. You know, we talk about buyer's remorse. This has got the potential to be the biggest remorseful ship I've ever seen. Just based on the way Ben reacted to, he couldn't believe like everyone in an org had this ship type of thing, where they're expecting like, but it's one of the reasons they made it limited, is you just don't need a lot of them. So I'm interested to see where that kind of goes down the line. But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a need for it though. Yeah.
It's I think people are, as always, imprinting too much hopes and dreams on this thing. I think it is like CIG is definitely using this as like a, hey, this does everything we need it to do, and so we're going to build it first. But there will be ships. There will be a ship that builds the station core that is not going to cost $900. There will be ships that does everything, and it might actually and probably will be eventually cheaper for you to get a bunch of smaller ships. The Starlancer size.
The BLD is going to be at least half the price of this thing too, and that'll do most people. And the only real difference is, yes, you get extra buildings out of this and extra size, and the space station, but the build will do what 90% of people, I think, in most cases. So I don't know. I'm talking myself.
Between a BLD and a Galaxy with the manufacturing module, you would get basically the Pioneer's ability.
So I'm slowly talking myself out of this and talking myself in just getting a BLD instead. So we'll see how if I can, because the last ship of my list is a Pioneer. It's been on that, and it's been that way for since I got the Kraken. This is the last thing I really wanted to get. So we'll see if I can hold out. Right, the hover quad, a fun little referral is what I would call it. It's never been in a good place, to be honest with you. Since the handlebar fiasco, they deleted the image that tells you everything you need to know. It'll have its place, but again, it's a vehicle. Don't buy it. I can't say a lot of good about it, unfortunately. I'm just not a hate thing. I just, what do you say about it, Paul? Like,
it was designed as to be worked with the Nomad. It is, I don't know. It was an onboarding process, I guess. It's the argument against CIG's rule of cool mantra. It's like, cool. Like, this is cool. I'm sure this is cool to make, and it makes cool screenshots, but like, what do we use it for?
Well, it's got a lot of internal storage, but there are other bikes that do cargo better. So it's just in a really, really weird spot. For example, even the Dragonfly has 2/4 SCU cargos that are external, like on the outside. You've also got the Ranger that has 1 SCU. So why the hell would you want it all internal, which is smaller? I don't understand. Again, it's like we just need a bike from Conside Outland. Let's make it a hover quad. Dang, done. It's just it's just a little weird. I don't know. I guess I'm bitching about nothing, but yeah. Right, the Mustang series. I think we can kind of throw these all together, Paul. I think there's only real two. Okay, let's cross the racer off. So Mustang Gamma and Mustang Alpha, if you ever know what that is, it's in the background, are basically the same thing now. Omega. Oh, I own one and I can't even tell you what it's called. That's how bad I am. I don't think they've ever really been up there for racing, have they? Ever?
No.
They've never really had their time in the sun?
They're okay for racing. I don't think they've really stood out as far as I know.
Yeah.
I don't follow too much racing, but as far as when I did follow a little bit of racing, it was always seen as a good middle ground.
Yeah.
It's an affordable racer at the very least. So if you're getting into racing, it's not a bad choice, but you have to really be dedicated to it. And I'd argue that's the same kind of thing with the beta. It's probably worse with the beta.
Because that's been trod on now by the Cutter and the Intrepid, like the internals just don't work anymore.
Why? Yeah, the beta is cheaper than the other two, but like, why would you get a beta when you could get a Rambler?
Yep.
It does the same thing, but it's bigger and has more range.
And it has cargo. This does not have cargo. It gives up the cargo to get those living quarters. So that's essentially the difference between these two. 4 SCU, which is where the cargo goes in the back. You give up the cargo here, and you get a bed and a coffee maker. And I can't even remember if it's got a toilet. It's been so long since I've been in it. Like it's been at least 6 years since I was in it. Yeah.
It used to have style, at least. It used to have some really good style to it. But back when it was nicknamed the Bang Stang, and now it's just it looks like a Kleicher prison cell on the inside. So like, who the fuck would want that? So it doesn't look good. It gets trotted on by other ships. So just like, don't bother with the beta.
The ironic funny thing is it does look like, because it's all orange.
Like it's orange and it's super blocky, and like the design style is like a prison cell.
Yeah,
why would you explore in a prison cell? Like, who the fuck wants to do that?
That's why it's funny, because it's true. Like that's the best type of funny. Right.
The prison stang.
Yeah.
The Delta, I do think the Delta. Yeah.
The Delta, sorry. Yeah.
I do think the Delta has some merit because of the rocket pods and because of the up guns and all that kind of stuff. It has some stealth coding to it, so it is going to eventually have a little bit of a stealth.
Can I tell you what it doesn't though?
65.
No, that's 65. An Avenger.
Yeah.
No.
Well, here's the thing. If you are a combat pilot, would you choose an Avenger that has no stealth coding and it's got these extra little things here and there, but isn't like dedicated combat? Yeah, it's got like a size 3 size 3s or something like that. Yeah. And this has less guns, but this is smaller, more maneuverable, and has stealth.
Yeah, you're talking now versus release, but they are only dumbfire missiles. So again, this might come back for things like ground targets that are stationary. Absolutely. Yeah. It will have its place. I agree with you on that. Just not right now.
It's the only one that I think has a place in the verse of the Mustangs other than the Alpha, because it is a legitimate decision where you go, do I want these advantages but lose some of the other advantages of this? It's what I want the Intrepid to be with the Cutter. Like, why would I choose the Cutter over the Intrepid or the Avenger? I want to know these reasons.
But at this price point, and by the time those features come in, it's clearly an earning game. You know, you're not, as a starter ship, so to speak, you're not going to get those advantages. It pushes this into the combat ship domain, and once you go into the combat ship, they're just not worth it. At that, especially at that price point, you are better off to get something else, generalistically, that you can use more readily available in the game right now, that'll do you now and into the future, where that is all future, nothing else. All right, we're going to talk about Becky on Blast. This is her favorite ship. Matt and Becky, I'm looking at you. I am slowly coming around to this ship. It is, look, it's a good ship. It's just not terribly well priced at where it is, but I forced myself to use this thing a lot during the cargo overhaul, and it really did start to show how advantageous it was over other starters, like, because you can unload it and load it a lot quicker because of the sled, I guess I'll call it, on the back. It does have a lot of advantages over other ships, especially even against other advanced starters. But I also looked at other ships like the Hull A, and when you start to look at the Hull A, it changes again to turn into the favor of the Hull A. So it's in this weird spot where it's just getting good, and then all of a sudden there's other ships that are better than it because of the price point. So again, that is a good design thing. It makes you choose which ship is better, like, you know, no perfect ship type of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of angst with this ship when it came out, so it's me that's got to get over it, not you get over me, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, I still think it has a place, but its place is more aesthetics. Yeah, it's not really design. Like, because if you're looking at pure design, then why buy it? Because it's too expensive for it to matter in terms of its value. But at the same time, if you want to, for just a little bit more money, you can get a Cutlass.
Yeah. But look, that's it in a nutshell. But again, if you are, like, once they kind of stretch out how much things cost, it will be a ship, if you do cargo, that you will jump through. And if you go do, just go look at the missions, and you know how they say, like, 4 SCU, 6 SCU, 8 SCU. As soon as you're going up to 8, there's only like 3 ships that can do that in the starting range, right? Like the core's done, it can't do it. You know, you go into the Avenger can do it, and the 315P can do it, and this can do it, and the Hull A. All right, so it's technically 4, right? And I might have missed one, so you can crucify me in the comments, but that's where these things start to shine. Where in a cutter, you'd have to do that twice. You'd have to go up and back, and again, you can't actually do that at the moment, because if you leave the cargo, it disappears. Yeah. So they haven't even worked that out. How are you going to do it when you don't have? You're going to need to take 2 trips. So yeah, at the moment, it totally puts this and those other ships I mentioned in a different light, and then it allows you to do the missions after that as well, and it quickly separates itself from the Avenger and the 315P. That's where I learned there is a place for this. But again, that's now, and it'll change again when they fix a lot of the missions. So yeah.
Yep.
Right, we've done a lap on that one. Grey Cat. These last two are going to be really quick because there's not a lot on these. We've got the Rock, the disaster. We need to work up the DS, Destroyer of Safety. I don't know. I need to come up with a name for DS that's a terrible acronym to represent that
I can,
ship.
but it's you don't want me to say what I'm going to say, so because it's involved. It involves penises.
Oh yes, I got it as soon as you said. Before you even finished, I got it. Yes.
Yeah. Rock is in a bad place, but that's just more technical issues.
Fine game.
I don't think it functions. Yeah, they just haven't had it broke, I think, recently, and I don't know if they fixed it or not. So it's hard to do it. Buy in game. Check to see if it works. Buy in game.
Yeah.
Don't buy this. Do not. Just don't even erase it from your memory. Just when you see it, laugh at it.
Yeah.
Just laugh at it and then do this. Same thing as TV. Buy in game.
Yeah,
it's nice, it's neat, but buy in game.
It is good for some of the missions where you want to drive in quickly just to pick up a couple little boxes. It almost competes with a mule for that. It's kind of weird. And then when the UTV version comes in, I just don't understand kind of why this needs to exist, because the mule and it are all conflicting, doing the same thing. So
yeah.
That's it. General rule: don't buy vehicles. Oh no, we're down to Krieger. We've got 2 more, but these again are snubs. So we've only got the Archimedes and the Merlin.
I will argue there is an argument for the Archimedes. If you have a constellation, not a Phoenix, if you have a regular constellation, I think the Archimedes is a better snub as an upgrade to your ship because it doesn't require ballistic reload, because you can just pull like put full energy on that thing, and it becomes a really, really useful vehicle for defense. It's not perfect, obviously, and you'd be better to have another regular fighter. But if you're trying to make the most out of whatever constellation you have, if you have the ability to get the Archimedes, because I don't know if the Archimedes is purchasable in game. It might be. If that's the case, just buy it in game. But like, for $35 is kind of like you can think of it as like an upgrade pack for your Connie. It's not a bad choice.
I think the other thing I'll add is it is a good racing ship too. It's been up there for a really, really, really long time with those that do racing. Obviously, its biggest problem is it doesn't have a jump drive, but as Paul said, there are other ships that can carry it, like the Connie. I did get one off our grid actually. I got an Emerald one. Because of it actually comes out black if you get the Emerald one. It's like this black green look to it, and I just wanted it because it was rare, so I got one off our grid. Anyway, that is today. There is I'm going to safely say there's no skins, though I haven't checked, because there hasn't been any skins all week besides new ships like the Polaris. It is coming very clear to me, unless there's some kind of surprise on Drake Day, because there's an IE show on Drake Day. Anvil's going to be the last big thing. You know, I was expecting a little something on RSI Day. We got nothing, because traditionally speaking, it's been those 3 days down the left-hand side. And I think it's just all been piled into Anvil Day, because again, for the first time ever, they're going to be selling 2 new ships on 1 day. That is a first for this game. I do want to point that out. Paul, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen 2 new things sold on the same day, or started to be sold on the same day. So you're going to have the medical terrapin and the iron. I was about to say the iron.
3 new things.
Oh, 3.
3 new things.
3.
The variants of the Hornet. The Mark II variants of the Hornet are also being sold. Both of them.
That can be classified as something old updated, so I would separate that, but I'll definitely give you the medical terrapin and the paladin.
Well, those aren't really updated because you have to purchase them separately. You can't.
And they do have a price increase. Okay, I'll give you 3. I'll give you them, but I still see them as upgrades personally. But it can be debated. We could debate that back and forth for a while, but I'll give them to you.
And even then, there's 2 separate versions, so that you're looking at like 4 new ships from Anvil on the same day. We would totally agree that it is going to be easily the biggest day of the sale because of that. Easily.
Yeah.
Because of and I think the big thing is that it's the Paladin, or whatever it's going to be called, is almost certainly a concept ship. It's probably one of those concept to launch. So it's like, hey, it's a concept ship, but we're going to release it at Invictus, kind of thing.
Again,
in the past.
Again, if you look at the images in the, the sneak peek kind of blurry images, they very much look hand-drawn, like concepts of old. They don't look like screenshots. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be a concept on that one. But hey, if it's flight ready, I'll be happy. But again, in the files, there's a HoloViewer model for it, so I've got to assume that it's not flight ready because of the HoloViewer. So yeah. Right. What do you want to hear from people in the comments below, Paul?
I want to know what would it take for you to I'm not going to steal it because I was going to say Argo, and I'm sure you were going to say something about Argo.
No. Go ahead. So what are you going to say? See if we can make it 3 for 3, Paul. Go for it.
What would it take for you to for y'all to be interested in, say, like the NPUV and the other Argo vessels? Like, what do you think Argo needs to become more valuable as a gameplay ship rather than just sort of the niche factions they currently have?
I just got a message from someone saying the Warbond Pioneers lasted 1 hour and 8 minutes before they sold out. So it's not too bad considering.
Yeah.
That's at Warbond, so people paid extra for cash.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got two questions. Obviously, the word salad problem that we talked about earlier. Do you think that should be something that's fixed? Do you think there's going to be a lot more reckoning and what we call buyer's remorse with things like the Pioneer and other stuff like that, where people realize that they don't need as many of these ships? And I think a lot of people have been realizing that, like, I've got too many big ships or I've got too many big things, and they didn't realize how the game was played, even though we've been explaining it all for years. And then I think my last question would be one that I didn't actually talk about, that I forgot to talk about, was I found from Ben Curtis and John Crew that they still want to make the Argo UFO ship. And would you like to see that UFO ship, is guess what I'm saying? And I actually, when we talked about it, they want to make it a really big one. I think that's a bit weird. I think they're much better to make it a starter ship, personally. And I had all these jokes about it picking up cows. I know that sounds weird, but like, I think that would just be like the funniest thing in an advert. Like, this little UFO comes down and it like, got milk, yeah, and taking the cow home, like got milk or something like that. Like it sells itself. But yeah, I again, if they're gonna do a UFO, make it something small, because then you're more likely to get it past Chris Roberts. And I think, again, when it lands, you could have it fold or something like that. So
you're talking like an Argo starter ship.
Yeah, that looks like a little UFO, like it's a little round disc, and it just folds up when it lands or something like that. And there's so much you could do with that. But I like trying to make that into a really big ship. I think that's a hard sell, because all the other ships have a very stylistic thing. But when you make it smaller, it's like, well, we had to make some color. You can get away with those style changes. Yeah, exactly.
Intrepid, which is boxy and a lot very different from what it is, but it's still that sort of same style. Yeah.
Well, it all came down to the Argo logo being a circle. John Crew actually opened on his phone and showed it to me, and it's just a circle. And I was like, because there's a new one, the new A one, but the old one, it was just a circle, and that's where the whole idea apparently came from. And I'm like, okay, well, I never would have thought the logo the logo made designs of ships, but that's where it came from. So yeah,
that's how anvils are designed. The logo is its ship size, it's ship's design.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the open circlet.
Yeah, so would something like the UFO still appeal to you, is my question in the comments. All right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon. And I forgot to ask you, Paul, where can people find you on the interweb? Sorry about that.
Twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live. If you want to see me do gaming content, all my live content is on those sites. If you want to see the recorded Captain's Table episodes, the Captain Tables podcast episodes, go to youtube.com/@the Captain Table podcast, all one word. And if you want to check out the lore of science fiction, sci-fi, and space universes, especially Star Citizen, you can check me out at youtube.com/theastrohistorian.
I just saw you yawn. You're getting tired too. It's time to catch up with you. Good, it's not just me.
I'm always tired. That's the problem.
That's my secret. Yeah. All right. With that, then, he's been Astropub. I've been Execute. See you later, citizens.